Before really jumping in, I need to be clear from the start that the topic today is not an assertion that all Ubisoft star players will fit into the definition and category that I discuss. In fact, some of my closest friends were part of the program, they remain the exact same people who I became close with, and are a monument to how privilege does not necessarily influence personality or action. However, there is a dark side to the program, and there are those members that do let their participation influence their own actions, and in such a case, it can create unreasonable situations that are problematic for everyone else involved. So what is a Ubisoft star player? The star player program is a bit of a unique thing in the games industry. A lot of times it gets compared to the EA Game Changer initiative, but that's not quite accurate, at least in my opinion. Star players are chosen in groups of maybe 10 or 20 to attend various conventions on Ubisoft's dime. They are typically prominent members of the community, streamers, forum posters, YouTubers, or cosplayers, among others, and it is mostly, from my understanding, a way to show appreciation for the player base that supports Ubisoft, as well as garner some good PR material for the company website and other publications. The difference between the Game Changer program and the Star Player program is that Game Changers have an ongoing partnership with EA and in some small way help represent the company. Star Players, however, do not represent Ubisoft, they are merely participating in an event set up by the company. This clarification is needed because I've seen a decent number of people asserting that the behavior I'm about to talk about today reflects poorly on Ubisoft, so they as a company should do something about it. But that's not entirely accurate. Star players at certain points self-associate with Ubisoft. They will have a line in their Twitter bio or something like that, but they do not actually represent the company. So when discussing today's topic, keep in mind that responsibility is entirely on the individual and not the publisher. This brings us to the first and primary instance of note, which is false copyright striking. False flags on YouTube are a serious problem. All types of creators have experienced the issue, and there is a sort of unspoken rule that creators themselves should not perpetrate that type of behavior. Channels that abuse the system are often publicly called out and shamed by the community because they are contributing to an atmosphere of instability on the platform. The concept of fair use and transformative use is often misunderstood as well. Fair use is complicated and requires a conformity to many different principles, but the basic gist is as follows. Fair use is the doctrine that brief excerpts of copyrighted material, under certain circumstances, may be quoted or used verbatim for purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching, and research without the need for permission from or payment to the copyright holder. The factors involved are many, ranging from amount and substantiality of the portion used, to nature and character of use, all the way to the nature of the original work. But the end result is that if you are using a small portion of someone else's material exclusively for the purpose of criticism or commentary, that is most likely fair use, and would need to be evaluated deeper by an intensely skilled copyright lawyer to be absolutely certain. This brings us to Tony T and 21 Kiloton. Some of you may remember 21 Kiloton from a video I did regarding Last Oasis and an update on that actually. Because of the attention it received, the best possible outcome transpired, where the Last Oasis team actually reached out to Theo Jansen and he is going to have a special credit line in the game because of their inspiration from his work. And they have both agreed to work together, so that's fantastic, that's super great. But anyways, 21 Kiloton is a YouTuber who focuses on satire, comedy, and criticism. Some people don't like his style, and I can absolutely see why. He is abrasive, oftentimes insulting, but in a world where delusion has all but taken over, I find it to be somewhat refreshing, honestly. 21 Kiloton made an hour-long news dump video, which is a staple on his channel, that's a normal format for him, and included a 4-second clip of a Division 2 streamer named Tony T. The framing around the clip's usage was that there is only 1 or 2 streamers left playing the Division 2, Tony being one of them, and for comedic effect, 21 Kiloton used a 4-second clip of Tony drinking from a mug and burping. The entirety of his appearance was 4 seconds, and the material was not integral to the video's concept, it was merely a slight addition for the sake of commentary, criticism, and comedic effect. Here is where we get to the star player tie-in. 21 Kiloton makes long videos. In fact, his topics are many times longer than my own material, so there was a lot of ground covered, but one of the main points was that Ubisoft suppresses criticism through alternative methods, and the star player program is one of these methods. I won't say to what level I agree or disagree with that concept, because I believe it would be too much speculation and I cannot back up any of the assertions, but with the video theme operating around suppression of criticism by unorthodox Ubisoft proxies, and it then being struck down and a strike issued by a Ubisoft star player over 4 seconds of material that was not in any way critical to the video concept itself and easily conformed to fair use guidelines, well, if anything, it starts to underline the credibility of the argument. On top of this, summarizing briefly, there was a huge back and forth between 21 Kiloton and a community manager for the Division 2 about ricin being mailed, or a joke about ricin being mailed that turned into threats or something. I'm steering way clear of that part because it's not particularly relevant and it's very serious. It's a whole huge complicated thing, but it's not right for this video. Now we arrive at the internalization of criticism and an overly emphasized self-identity as a result of star player status. Keep in mind, this is by no means true of every single member out there, but for Tony T, it seems to have pushed him to such an extreme that he blatantly violated both fair use copyright law and social expectation on YouTube. And before going any further, Tony, if you claim this video as well, which includes the exact same 4-second clip, though this time without sound, I talked over it, you will be entrenching yourself in an indefensible position. I have plenty of resources, and I will take this to whatever extreme it must go to in order to combat the infestation of emotional false copyright flags on YouTube. Expanding outward, before producing this video a couple days ago, I took to Twitter to discuss the situation, and had a back and forth with Tony privately after a tweet thread about the cardinal sin of YouTube, which in my opinion is false flagging, and he remained steadfast in his assertion that he has every moral and legal right to strike the video, even though I don't believe that he does, so he will not alter his position. But that isn't the point. The point is, the thread had some interesting interactions. Here is the thread. My first paragraphs name Tony T and discuss the copyright flag. All normal there. Immediately after, a passionate community member made a blanket statement in which he said EA load catchers and Ubistar guzzlers. This was not aimed at any one particular individual with a tag or a mention, but rather the entirety of the programs. And as a disclaimer, I don't fully agree with it, but he has every right to express that sentiment, and I fully understand why he holds it. Beneath that, Buzz Lightyear makes an observation that he should not be so quick to stereotype, and it should be mentioned that Buzz himself is another Ubisoft Star Player participant. I have had interactions with Buzz in the past, and they were all nothing but positive, so I'm not directing ill will at him in the slightest. And I do agree that we should judge the individual rather than the group, but the important step comes directly after his contribution. This is Liz. Liz, or Sh55, is a Twitch streamer and a former Ubisoft Star Player. To really understand the internalization of a program identity to the point of detrimental behavior, you need some backstory on this. Liz was blocked by the official UE Twitter and has been, I want to say, for a year or two at least. I had completely forgotten about it, to be honest. That stems from an interaction where a Warframe event was happening. There was an argument between myself and another streamer, completely disconnected and unrelated to her, and she chimed in randomly to throw sarcastic comments. I blocked her and moved on with my life, but in more recent months I have attempted to distance myself from the emotional response of blocking people just because I dislike them. If I criticize that same behavior, I should do my best not to be hypocritical. With that in mind, let's read on. Liz makes a joke about how she is blocked and cannot see the tweet. That's what's important here. Being blocked, she cannot view the page, and the most important part, no one mentioned or tagged her. She came and found this thread to comment on a discussion that in no way, shape, or form made an attempt to include her, and injected herself into the mix. My response was to unblock her, make my own sarcastic comment because I think she's and then simultaneously express that the core principle here is a projection of identity which leads to a star player internalizing criticism of a program as if it is integral to their own identity. I also express that there are plenty of great star players. The problem is the individual internalization, not the group. She fired back saying I was rude and should have kept her blocked. I flipped it on her to make a joke about how she injected herself into the discussion and is now somehow saying it's my responsibility to not respond on my own thread, and she comes back with the claim that I should block her again. This is where we reach what is a borderline narcissistic thought process. Dating back multiple years, one of the first interactions I ever had with Liz, who at the time was fresh off the heels of the Star Player program, was when a UEG community member held a world record in the Division Survival DLC. There was some issue between him and her, and to this day I'm not sure what it exactly was, but her response was to publicly tweet at me with the phrase "DM me" or something like that. I keep the channel direct messaging open, I always have, and I may fail to respond to some messages or miss others, but I believe in accessibility. Her mindset was that it was my responsibility to message her and solve a problem that was between her and someone else and had nothing to do with me. I didn't care about this, and another of the core UE team took it upon themselves to talk it through with her, but this is a pattern of self-absorbed behavior. At this point, since my messages are open, as I stated, someone forwarded me a clip of her and her stream chat making some bold claims and leveling insults. I am human after all, and a very curious person, I might add, so I tuned in, and here's what followed.
You want to be a drama queen? You won. You got your metrics. I have interacted with your tweet. You baited me. Congratulations. The dramatics are absolutely unnecessary. totally not worth it and absolutely just pointless. You want to be dramatic. If you want to be dramatic, but just block me. I have no qualms with you just blocking me again. Because the antics are absolutely just high school level. And I've never seen anything so pointless in my life.
Her further response was, "Congratulations, you wanted the attention and you got it. I commented on your tweets. Now you have metrics. I'm not talking trash, I'm saying what I would say to your face. And might I remind you that you came to my stream to start drama. I see you haven't changed." If we examine the chat logs, this is the only thing I said. It was one line, and I'm not even sure if it was seen or not, but regardless, the important point is that this is all derivative of a thread and a post that did not tag her, did not mention her, barely pertained to her except for one blanket statement from a community member about the program she participated in years ago, and she goes out of her way to find this thread, which she cannot see because at the time she was blocked, and inject herself into the discussion before pivoting to the defense that I wanted her engagement and metrics, despite having forgotten she existed prior to this confusing interaction. This is where we get back to the internalization of the Star Player program. A blanket statement about the initiative from a random community member was enough to spur 2 former participants to comment, one of whom could not even see the initial thread and was blocked. Tony T internalized criticism of the Star Player program and the game that resulted in his invitation because he felt a sense of connected self-interest to such an extreme it resulted in a false copyright strike, damaging the livelihood of another YouTuber over disconnected corporate PR vanity. The Star Player program, while certainly containing positive elements, also has the possible side effect of weaponizing community members against criticism. It is not a massive benefit, but Tony T striking down critical coverage of a Ubisoft game can help them. It might also create backlash, that's a possibility, but the Star Player program creates a sense of vested self-interest, which can turn former community members into nearly ravenous anti-criticism machines who even hunt down threads with vague criticism years after their participation, when those threads are mostly even not visible to them. I am by no means asserting that the Star Player program is entirely negative, and again, some of my closest friends were invited to attend, but it most definitely has a dark side, and that dark side can be somewhat vicious, narcissistic, and even delusional. I will be uploading this video to BitChute as well, because I believe there is a decent possibility it will be false flagged. If it does happen, I have already informed a friend who will give me first steps on legal recourse. As a matter of principle, I will fight this to the end, and I'll put more resources into it should it become necessary. The main point is that a one-time 3-day special access trip put on by a publisher should not be so inextricably linked with your identity that it causes creator-on-creator false flags or creates conflict in the community because of the internalization of criticism that in actuality has very little or nothing to do with them. But honestly, that's it for today though. If you want to support Patreon, merch, all that good stuff in the links down below, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.